Because you didn't give any handles out at all in that video, and I thought I'm not going to stop him now because he's mid-flow.
Oh, that's right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Absolute Scenes YouTube channel with our extra bit of podcast content. The season starts tomorrow. The football season starts. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Absolute Scenes Podcast, and Twitter. Will all be in the description underneath. But we're going to go through in about 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes, talking through who we think is going to finish top four, who's going to get relegated, who's going to be a dark horse, a flop, and then the same for a sign-in. So the flop of a sign-in and the dark horse of a sign-in. So Billy, hit us with, let's start off with our top four then. Go up from 4 to 1 for us.
Okay, so fourth I've got United, then I've got Chelsea, then I've got Liverpool, then I've got City.
Oh, okay. So I and ahed very hard for about 3 or 4 seconds on who to put first and who to put second. So I've actually got Arsenal finishing fourth, United finishing third, Man City finishing second, and Liverpool finishing first. So I don't think we've got any of the same teams in each position.
I ummed and ahed about putting Arsenal fourth, but in the end I went with United purely because I think Arsenal's defence might leave something to be desired. I know David Luiz is now probably out for about a month, so that might put them in good stead. They might actually be able to end a bit better. But the main, obviously, the thing that I'm going to jump straight to, Tom, forgetting about all that. Oh, Chelsea.
So you'll find out later on what I think about Chelsea.
All right, there we are then. Okay, we'll keep that. What, they're in the bottom three?
No. I'll talk about Chelsea in a bit. But obviously, You're feeling quite confident then about Chelsea. You think they're going to improve? Well, I mean, is it an improvement on last season? Where did you finish? Fourth. So yeah.
So we finished. Yeah, we finished fourth last season. I think we'll improve. I think it's going to be a closer season next season. I think the points total. I think third and fourth this season was a lot lower points total, obviously because the top two had a lot higher. I think the gaps will close. So I think it will be tighter in terms of, not of saying that Chelsea or anyone's going to break into the top two, but I think it's going to be those top two, but the gap between them is going to be a lot smaller. Okay. I think we're going to be okay in terms of the signings being bedded in and stuff like that, which I'll obviously come through later in my other predictions as well. So yeah, I think we're hopefully going to be signing a new goalkeeper. I think that's going to be a lot of the things which is going to probably depend on. So yeah, hopefully we're going to outscore a lot of teams. But yeah, I thought United, Chelsea, I think in terms of going forward in particular, I think United are probably going to be stronger defensively, I think, than Arsenal, because that's the team I would have had in fifth. And then the rest I'll leave because they a couple of them appear later on. But yeah, talk about who have you got third? United, you've got third, haven't you?
So I picked United and Arsenal to finish in the top four purely because of the way they finished last season. Arsenal in particular, I think, had a very, very strong restart, winning the FA Cup and the Community Shield. I don't know what they've done in terms of signings over the summer, but obviously the transfer window going on until October might, I don't know, they can perhaps, if they do have a terrible start defensively, they can fix that. Whereas if it had been a normal season, they wouldn't have been able to do that. United, since Bruno Fernandes has come in, they've been a different team. I assume Pogba is staying. I don't really know. I haven't been following that saga throughout the summer, but I assume that they will be better than last season. I don't think they're anywhere near challenging the top two. But the reason I've gone for Liverpool, I did think that City. I think City will be much better this season. If they'd have had Messi, I think I would have put them to win the league, but they're still lacking a leader for me. Although perhaps somebody like De Bruyne might step up, but now in the last 2 seasons they've lost Company and they've lost David Silva. So it's not necessarily the quality on the pitch that they're going to miss more; it's the actual leadership that they're going to miss. So it's up to players like De Bruyne, Fernandinho, perhaps Aguero to step up and be those voices in the changing room. But I think Liverpool, I think, are coming towards the end of a cycle of a squad, and it's a very, very good cycle. Winning the Champions League and the Premier League, and I think this is probably going to be the end of the road, at the end of this season for players like Salah, Firmino, maybe not Mane, but I think there's a few players that they might look to cash in on before rebuilding again next season with a sort of new look team.
Well, so this is, I think, maybe why I've put Chelsea as well. Obviously, I'm a Chelsea fan, so hence why I put them third anyway. But in terms of everything that's still going on in the world as things are, I think there's going to be a lot of disruption to the season in terms of being, to be getting and things like that. I think when you look at, Liverpool are a first team 11, aren't they? They're similar to, when Chelsea won the league with Conte, it was these are the 11 teams which are on the team sheet, and it stays like that. There's not much change and stuff like that. You look at especially their front three, there's very little change. I know they've got Minamino now, who's probably going to play a lot more active roles. Like Shaqiri and Divock Origi didn't play much in terms of in the Premier League, a lot of minutes. Whereas you look to City's team, and they've probably got 2 first team 11s. So I think the rotation of the teams is going to play a lot more this season, and I think that's why, in my opinion, obviously I'm looking at through rose-tinted glasses, the signings that Chelsea have had, you'd hope would, they'd be able to, it'll be like for like sort of change and stuff like that. Obviously with Chelsea it's a lot different because they've never played together, so that's got to change things. United as well. Whereas I think where you look, Liverpool will probably cope with being able to do that, but I think when you go lower down the table, I think a lot of teams are going to struggle. Obviously, they haven't got the 5 substitutes carrying on from lockdown, so that will help. I think teams manage injuries and stuff like that, overplaying players. But I think Man City's just squad depth is going to shine through this season. That's again, everyone's entitled to their opinion, Tom. Yes. So entitled to think he won't finish top 4.
Nobody's opinion.
Where do you want to go next, Tom?
Bottom 3, please. Hit me with your bottom 3.
So I haven't got them in a particular order, but this is probably the order if I had to pick. I've got Palace, West Brom, and Fulham. So Fulham being the bottom, Palace just scraping. No, not scraping in, but just missing out.
Okay.
How about you?
So, I've got Brighton and Hove Albion in 18th place, Sheffield United in 19th place, and West Brom in 20th place. Where do you want to start, Billy?
We'll start. I'll let you go on your rant, if you will.
Well, it's not a rant so much as I play five-a-side and football and cricket with quite a few Albion fans, and up until this weekend, just gone, they were very, very concerned about their squad going into the start of the season. The fact that I can't name 4 players who play for Albion just shows, there's very little rivalry at the moment between Wolves and Albion. We're looking forward to beating them, obviously, but we're not, there's no players that I hate who play for the Albion because I don't know who plays for them. They have signed a couple of players recently. I think they were linked with loaning Batshuayi as well, but I don't know what's happened with that. So they might do better than 20th. But
I know.
Go on.
Just with Batshuayi, I know his squad number's been taken off him, so he's looking like he's going to go out on loan. To where? I'm not entirely sure.
But I expect them to have a poor season. Brighton, I think they've ridden their luck for the last couple of years, but I think they're just so organised that they might stay up. They can grind out points towards the end of the season. So we'll see how that goes. And Sheffield United, I've just got a feeling that the bubble has burst for them.
Yeah.
Because when the restart happened, they were really on the edge of finish. Well, they were like us. They were looking at possibly finishing in the top 4 or going for that 5th spot that could have been Champions League at the start of the restart. But they just seem to have lost all their momentum, and they seem to be, I don't know, they haven't got much money to spend in their transfer window and stuff like that. Their squad looks good on paper because they all had good seasons last year, but they haven't got that Premier League experience. And I think it could be a case of severe second season syndrome for them. So talk us through yours then. You've got a couple of different ones. You got Fulham was your...
Yeah, I didn't... So So with Bright, just to go, I know they've got that White. Is it Ben White? I think he's called, who was playing for Leeds. They were trying to sign him. So I know they've got. So I don't know much about him. So it seems as though like in defence they're going to have really strong. Dunk signed a new contract. I know Chelsea were linked with him. Whether that had any legs in it and stuff like that. So they've managed to keep hold of, in terms of their defensive players. They've done well to keep them there. So hopefully that it continue. Like I think. Again, it's going forward there, which they may struggle. So obviously that could hinder them. And Sheffield United, I do think I don't think they'll finish as high as they did last season, but I think they'll just have enough to stay in. So Fulham, similar to I don't know many players that Fulham have. I couldn't name many. I know they've been linked with loaning a few of Chelsea's players and stuff like that. So whether that helps them, obviously Chelsea are going to be looking to shift a lot of players. So I think that could play into it, that a lot of Chelsea's rejects, shall we call them, will be playing in the Premier League or elsewhere. So that you might help them. And Palace, I think they've just been poor for such a long time now. I think that's going to play to him. I think Hodgson could probably get sacked. Be one of the first managers to get sacked. So that might save them. But you just look through their team and there's not a lot of quality. Zaha was so poor last season, considering he was going to move for 80 million. He just wasn't. Obviously, if they sign someone up front, again, it could be Batshuayi could go there or something like that. It could be one of those. Just with West Brom, I know they're linked with signing Conor Gallagher from Chelsea. He was on loan at Swansea last season. I know they've been heavily linked with him because I think he was going to go to, I think, either Fulham or Palace, but that deal collapsed. So obviously that'll be the saving grace. But yeah, I just think these teams, I think we spoke off air, there's a lot of, on paper, poor teams. But you look at that, like Sheffield United last season, everyone had them to finish rock bottom, and look where they finished. So I don't think, none of these, I don't know if you've got either Fulham or Palace as your dark horses, but I know I've not got either of your teams to be my dark horse. So I don't think, again, I don't think many people have had Sheffield United as their dark horse. Those things. Someone's got to be the bottom three, and they're the three teams that we've picked. So yeah.
As you mentioned, then who's your dark horse then for this season?
Well, with because they managed to turn it around last season, and towards the end of the season they were very, very good. So I've put Southampton just to get a European spot. I think they're going to sneak in to their Europeans. It's going to tie into who my flop are as well, because I've picked one to finish a lot lower. So I think they'll be challenging for European spots this season. I think hopefully Ings, because he continues his hot streak that he had last season and is an injury free and can go from strength to strength there. So yeah, they're my dark horse. Tom?
My dark horses are Leeds United. I think if you're talking about dark horses, they've got to be sort of relative. So I think if they were to finish in the top 10, I think that would be a huge shock for a newly promoted team. Well, I say that Wolves did it last season, and so did Sheffield United this season. So it might not be such a shock. But I think under Bielsa, they've become... It hasn't just been one season and they were amazing. He very nearly got them promoted the first season. He is a top quality manager. He's waited his whole career to manage. Leeds have waited for so long as well. Bielsa's waited for so long to manage a top Premier League team, and I think Leeds could finish in the top 10 comfortably. So that would be mine. But I don't think they'll finish as high as like Southampton. You've got that. I like top 7.
I was going to pick Leeds, but I thought everyone's talking about how well Leeds are going to do. So I thought you're probably going to pick Leeds. So I thought to be different at least then. Because that is everywhere you look, there's so much about Leeds back in the Premier League and them all expecting them to be the team which will, take on the role that Wolves and Sheffield United did and them to do well. So I thought, not that I was going to put, and they're not my flop. Don't get me wrong, because I think they'll stay up. But moving on to my flop, I've got Leicester City.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Wolves.
No, I did think about it, but I think Wolves have currently made a few signings, and the players that they're linked with, I think you're linked with half of the Porto team. Yeah. So I think Porto would do pretty well in the Premier League. So I don't think they'll do as well. I don't know if they'll get into Europe or things like that this season, because obviously you missed out this season, didn't you?
Yeah.
They're just gone. So I don't know whether you'll be back in those spots, but I think Leicester are going to really struggle. I think potentially the Vardy party might end this season. Surely at some point he's not going to be able to carry this team. And I think they're going to really struggle at the start because they've got so many key players injured. Madison's supposedly out. They just lost Chilwell. I don't know who they're going to get in to replace that. The defence is going to be a bit shaky because I think Evans is out suspended, and I think another one of their defenders is out injured as well. So they're going to have a makeshift team from the start. And just like Chelsea did a couple of seasons ago, once you start that bad run, when you're used to winning so many games, you're winning and winning and winning, you can get the rot in there. And as I mentioned in the previous video that was out, I don't know when it was out, I'm going to say yesterday, with the worst teams, when Leicester have been bad, they've been bad. As I said, Rodgers might get sacked first. I think not Rodgers. Hodgson might get sacked first, but Rodgers is also in consideration for that, in my opinion. But yeah, Tom, who's your flop?
Well,
and can I guess? Is it going to be Chelsea?
Well, yes, it is, Billy.
Yeah,
but purely because if we're talking of relativity, and so you've, as a Chelsea fan, you're expecting Chelsea to finish third. Neutral, I think, would you'd put your money on Chelsea finishing in the top four, particularly with the signings that they've made. However, I saw a tweet the other day saying about how you have explained it to me privately about how they've signed particular players without looking at what they actually do. Like, I think it was Timo Werner doesn't play as a central striker. He sort of comes off the left quite a lot, which is what is it Pulisic you've got? He tends to do that quite often. So you've got two very similar players. You said that you were trying to be like Liverpool and have three players who are interchangeable, and it doesn't really matter who's playing on the left or who's playing in the middle or who's playing on the right. Yeah. They're going to be able to play like that. That's fine. You've spent a lot of money, so there's a lot of expectation. People are on about Chelsea perhaps even pushing for the title. However, I think that Frank Lampard is the weak link. I think when the times get tough later on in the season, we've seen like in big games towards the end of the season, particularly the FA Cup final, not having the tactical nous to win big games like that, I think might mean Chelsea come unstuck towards the end of the season. And you don't know how this season's going to go. We might have months where we don't see any football whatsoever. So can they all balance another restart, or can they balance having to play loads of games because they've had local lockdowns and they're not allowed to play certain games, or there might be a couple of weeks where they have to play 3 or 4 games really quick together. I don't know if they've spent too much money on these really big names and then an unproven manager to add on top of that as well. I think there's a lot that could go wrong, but then again, it could go really, really right for Chelsea.
Okay, I'm gonna say something. No, not want this to happen. It's going to happen. I think hopefully it will go well, but Chelsea have got a history. If it's going to go wrong, they will sack Frank Lampard. He will get sacked, and I think they'll get someone in, and they'll turn it around. I'm not saying they'll turn it around and finish third, or be able to go to, because like a lot of people have said that we can go on and challenge the top 2. I think I'm being realistic in saying top 4 is in the realms of possibility for this season. To closing that gap or reducing that gap that much, I don't think, unless they both absolutely have terrible seasons, then that's a feasible option. But then you're talking about other teams joining that. So I think if it's going wrong, and it's going wrong early on, I am expecting Lampard to get sacked, and then them getting some big Pochettino's still out of a job at the minute. Hiddink obviously is a favourite. Benitez, God help us, he's still out of a job. Not Chris Hoy. Eddie Howe. Why have I got Chris Hoy on my head?
Chris Hoy.
Chris Hoy could come in. Eddie Howe. He's been linked to the England job recently because I've been on about Southgate being sacked because he played so many defensive players in the recent England game. Mourinho when it went atrociously wrong. Obviously, I think he was given a lot more leeway, whereas I think Lampard won't be given that leeway. His contract's up at the end of the year, so it's not going to be an expensive sacking if it is. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it goes really well, and we don't need to do that. It could be that we finish fourth and just scrape fourth again, and they look to get a new manager in and stuff like that. I don't know what the expectations are for us to be pushing and closing that gap, but you're right, Tom. We've got it's high risk, high reward, or we could absolutely tank it. In terms of on the signings, because we've got also going to do the same for the dark horse things like my not dark horse, the best signing Chelsea will do well. What he's going to be able to add to the team, he's going to be 9, so hopefully he's not going to have the number 9 curse. He's number 11, because all Chelsea's number 9s have done atrocious, Torres, things like that. So hopefully, I think maybe top goal scorer, just because I think Aguero's going to be rotated, and I think Mane are probably going to share the goals a lot more. So unless, you've got, and I've said Vardy's going to have not a terrible season, but I don't think he's going to do as well as he did. So I think Werner's maybe an outside shout for top goal scorer, and then from one striker. Oh no, I'll hold that one. Who's your signing of the summer, Tom?
So I've gone for a Wolves player, Wolves new signing. I don't know much about him. I'd never heard of him before last Saturday, but now in my mind, I've seen him some clips on YouTube, and he's amazing. So I'm going for Fabio Silva to be. Maybe not set the Premier League on alight this season, but I think in 2 or 3 seasons, fans will look back and think, "Oh my God, why did he ever sign for Wolves?" Because he's amazing. So he's been compared to Ronaldo, put it that way.
Oh well, then City or Chelsea will come and drop 100 million and sign him. Yeah,
they won't, because we are absolute dons. I've struggled to find a flop in terms of signings, because I don't really know who's anybody signed, but I thought I'd wind you up even further and put Kai Havertz.
Yeah. So I like this. I like this team at the minute. I nearly put. I'm not gonna lie. I nearly put. I know we haven't signed a goalkeeper yet, but I was gonna put whoever Chelsea signed as a goalkeeper as my flop, purely because I just think it's gonna be Thiago Silva. Obviously, he's going on. He could be another one, because obviously of his age and stuff like that, whether he can cope with the pace of the Premier League and stuff. But I've gone for Wilson. He's gone to Newcastle.
Wilson.
I don't think it's anything to do with him, but I just think Newcastle aren't going to be able to. He rejected going to. They've got Grealish, who's a very good. I'm not saying, but I think they'd have made a good partnership. Is it St. Maximin for Newcastle? One of those ones, but they also signed Fraser. They're on about Norwich's fullback as well. So I think they might struggle, because again, if even though Chelsea are going for these big signings, if Newcastle's signings don't hit the ground running, they're going to really struggle, because I thought they struggled last season as well. I've just
thought of a flop for a signing. That's Ollie Watkins, been signed by Aston Villa for £33 million. Everyone was going on about Wolves. Oh, they've signed this 18-year-old for £35 million. He was at least being courted by Real Madrid and Man City. Ollie Watkins has come from Brentford, and Dean Smith just really fancies him, and that's why they've signed him. Yeah,
well, the one that I saw as well was Josh King, is it? I think he was linked with them as well, or he's been linked with a team around that that end of the table, but he's holding off because he was supposed to go to United in January, and he's waiting to see if United come back in. And I was thinking, fair play to the bloke. He's obviously thinking if United come back in, and I don't know what's happening with Igalo and things like that. But I thought, surely he's got to be thinking, I can go to Villa and be first choice striker, or I can go to, well, it's United at the end of the day. You are probably gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna go to them instead. But yeah, go on then, Tom. I think you can cut us off and tell us where we need to go and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's it. We've finished. So usually podcasts are out on a Tuesday. That we don't talk about football that much. We're going to keep that onto the YouTube channel in the future. But let us know what you think about next season in the Premier League, and well, who's going to finish top 4, bottom 3, dark horse, flops, and the signings of the season. You can find us on Twitter at Absolute Scenes. Instagram, Absolute Scenes Pod, and then email rouseroach.pod@gmail.com. But yeah, just check out the podcast. That's what we want you to do, and we'll see you. We'll see
Don't
you.
worry, Tom. It's Friday. It's Friday today when this goes out, so you'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
It's the weekend. You can have a nap now.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. See you all next time. Bye.